I'm using Wispr Flow to transcribe. I'm taking the transcript. I'm loading that into Claude. Claude is then writing that transcript out to Notion, so I have it saved. Now, mood follows action. And earlier today, I just had a lot of thoughts, a lot of, maybe competing priorities. And I was just trying to think through all these things. And it wasn't working. So instead, I went on a ruck. I've got a rucksack, nothing crazy. But our driveway is about a quarter mile long. So I ended up doing 2 miles. And when I go on these walks or these rucks, I typically use them to process my thoughts. And you might, well, how do you do that? Well, I'll tell you. So what I'm using is I use an app called Wispr Flow, which I use a lot of different ways, but in this particular way, I've got my AirPods in, right? I've got Wispr Flow open on my phone, and I'm literally just talking. I mean, it might look a little bit crazy, but I'm just talking while I walk. And every so often, I'll stop the transcription just to make sure that it captured all the audio and that it processed. So basically, like every segment or every thought, right? I'll stop it. It transcribes, and then before I continue, I hit it again, and I continue with my thoughts. And then at the end of that, I take that transcript, and now you can use any number of different tools. I particularly like to use Claude for stuff like this. But I'm just dragging that transcript into Claude. And what I'm going to do is really twofold. The first thing is I'm going to have Claude write this transcript out to a new page in Notion, which is the tool that I use for note-taking, journaling, kind of like organizing all of the things that are going on. I use Notion. I really like that app. So I have Claude connected to Notion, so it can go ahead and write out the transcript, create a new page, and then I can also just ask it, what it thinks, right? Or does it have any insight? Can it help me organize? Can it do like a first pass processing? So all I'm going to tell it is go ahead and write this transcript out to Notion under, let's say Notion as a new page under thoughts. Once you are done with that, give me a first pass of organizing my thoughts and some ideas on moving forward. Nothing crazy. So what it's going to do, it is going to take the transcript, it's going to write it out as a new page under thoughts, which is a section that I have inside of Notion. And then once it does that, it's going to just go through what I was talking about and see if it has any ideas. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to take exactly what this is saying and go and execute it, but a lot of what I was talking to or talking about during this conversation was about content like this. This exact format of content is something that I actually talked about during my walk. Now, it just asked me to allow it to write out to Notion, and look, it just did. Brand clarity and content systems voice memo. That is exactly what I was talking about. Now, I just created this particular page inside of Notion so that I could use a clean page for this example. But to review, I'm using Wispr Flow to transcribe. I'm taking the transcript. I'm loading that into Claude. Claude is then writing that transcript out to Notion, so I have it saved. And then I'm going to have Claude do just a basic overview of what its thoughts are on what I was talking about. It knows the projects I'm working on. It knows all the different things that I have going on. So a lot of times it just helps me organize my thoughts. It's not going to solve my problems for me, nor do I even want it to do that. But a lot of what I use it for is brainstorming. Right? So, hey, here's a recurring theme. This is what I'm thinking. This is something that you referenced before. Here's an idea. So hopefully that workflow helps. And that is something that you could start using. Wispr Flow is the app for transcription. Notion is the app that I use for really journaling. And then Claude is my LLM of choice in most things. So yeah, copy that, and hopefully it helps. Okay, I just had to come back with this one little gem. So a lot of what I'm talking about here in my conversation in the transcript is the fact that I have several projects. And they're all different, and I'm not exactly sure how to reconcile that. And what Claude said I thought was pretty interesting and actually kind of helpful. It said the taxonomy doesn't need solving. It needs ignoring. Pick the format that has the lowest friction for you right now and just start stacking them. The strategy will become obvious from the pattern of what you actually make, not from the org chart you draw before you make it. Not bad.